G'day everyone and welcome back to another video here on the YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be going through my semi-finals AFL tips and predictions, as well as reviewing the week 1 of finals. And I'll tell you what a week we had. From the Pies winning in an upset to Gold Coast winning their first final, everything really did happen in week 1 of finals. I absolutely cannot wait to see what is to come in the remaining 3 weeks. Now, if you guys do go on to enjoy today's video, as always, could you please show me that by liking the video, as well as subscribing to the channel if you guys are new. Enough wasting your time, let's get straight into it. Now, before we get stuck into anything, I do want to quickly acknowledge the fact that I do have a tipping comp over on the ESPN app. The link to join that is in the description below. It's not too late to join, there's still 3 weeks left of the season, and I mean, if you're like me and you're too far gone and you're 42nd on your own tipping comp, then you know, that's probably fair enough if you don't want to join. But if you think you're still a chance at winning this whole thing, it's not too late to join. Join the competition now. All your points from throughout the season will still carry on throughout finals, and it doesn't end until grand final day. So you're not going to want to miss the chance to win a first place $100, second place $30, or a $15 cash prize for whoever finishes 3rd place. Again, the link to join is in the description below. Join now. Let's go. Now, to recap the round of footy that we just had, the Pies are into a preliminary final, as well as the Geelong Cats. The Pies got up by 24 points in an upset against the Crows at the Adelaide Oval. I mean, and that's a lot. That's pretty huge, considering people were beginning to write the Pies off going into finals. You know, they started thinking, oh, these Pies, they're too old. They're just not in the right headspace of what they were maybe 10 or so weeks ago. And they really proved everyone wrong, and they could be the real deal this year. And to think that they will have Jeremy Howe back in that prelim is going to be huge to have them down back. The Cats, well, they ended up getting that 38-point win over the Brisbane Lions, and 38 points in a final is really, really big, meaning that we will see 2 preliminary finals this year in Melbourne. And if Holmes, Dempsey and Stewart bring half of what they did throughout the entire final series, I think the Cats could go on to win the flag this year. The Suns, they played their first final in AFL history and got the job done. Who knows, maybe they'll actually make it deep into finals after people were thinking they'd lose their first. And Hawks vs Giants, that was probably the worst game of the round. I mean, it looked like the Giants were going to come back a bit, but in the end, nothing really happened. The Giants did make a bit of a fight back in that 3rd quarter, but the Hawks never really looked out of it. And the Giants, when you're trailing by so much throughout the game, you're going to have to play a full 4 quarters of footy. I guess the Hawks are really lucky. Really lucky that the Giants weren't playing that 3rd quarter footy throughout the entire game. Anyhow, enough wasting your time, let's move on to my semi-finals tips and predictions. The first game we have is on the Friday between the Adelaide Crows and the Hawthorn Hawks. Is at 7:40 PM at the Adelaide Oval. For most people going to week 1 of finals, no one really saw this matchup being a possibility. Most people would have predicted the Crows to get up against the Pies, considering the recent form from Collingwood. And considering how bad the Hawks do typically play at NG Stadium, I mean, going into last week's game, they had never won a game at NG Stadium. They go 0-9 there, so you'd think the Giants would have got over the top of them. But as you guys would have seen last week, the Pies probably played some of their best brand of footy they have all year, considering the huge injury they had out, some half-injured players, one of them being Nick Dacos, and the fact that they were still able to get over the line in a pretty comfortable win as well is pretty big for the Pies Football Club. As for the Hawks, I have very mixed opinions on them after last week's match. Yes, early in the game, they dominated. They got that 42-point lead, which is really big, I'll tell you that. They're looking so good until the Giants tended to turn the game around, as a comeback occurred in the 3rd quarter. What was once a 42-point lead by the Hawks was soon a leveled football game. So the first half really demonstrated how well the Hawks can play when they're playing their best brand of footy, but the second half really demonstrated how easily it can be to score goals against them. A few standouts for the Crows in the previous week had Pedlar. I mean, the Crows only kicked 8 goals that game, and Pedlar had the 3. Warrell tied with De Goey for most disposals of the day, being 26. Now, yes, Adelaide will still be without Isaac Rankin going into this week, but after losing last week in the qualifying final, that means if the Crows were to make the grand final in 2025, Isaac Rankin would be eligible to make the team. And I believe Josh Rochelle is out for another week or 2, but hopefully that doesn't affect them too much. And what a performance by Connor McDonald in the previous week. He was playing for the Hawks in a huge elimination final, so it's already hard enough. So the fact that he had the ability to kick 3 goals and have 17 disposals is really impressive. And I believe Ginnivan had almost identical stats, or did have identical stats. And how about Jai Newcomb? He kicked the first goal of the game and gave the Hawks a lot of momentum early, and he was really just such an impactful player throughout the entire game. I think in the end he had around 32 disposals. We do need to remember we saw this matchup only a few weeks ago back in round 21, and fittingly enough that was at the Adelaide Oval too. And to no one's surprise, the Crows did get up there by 14 points. Although in the round 14 clash between these two teams, this game was at Utah's Stadium and it was a Hawks home game obviously. It was one of the worst brands of football by both teams. Neither of them scored over 50 points, and the Hawks Hawks got up in 3-point thriller. So we already know that the Hawks are very capable of defeating the Adelaide Crows. This is first place taking on 8th place. The Crows have had 3 more wins than the Hawks all season, and you know for a fact that the Crows are going to be firing up after last week's loss. I don't even know if any team has ever finished first on the ladder and then gone out in straight sets. I'm sure someone's done it at some stage. If anyone in the comments know, then just let me know down below if anyone has done that in the past, because I'm actually quite interested to see. But for those reasons exactly, I will be backing the Adelaide Crows to get up in this game, and I think most would be too. I mean, the Crows have been easily the best team in the league for the last 10 or so weeks, and despite them not starting finals very positively, there's a reason why Hawks fans aren't going into this week's game with much confidence. And I will be predicting the Adelaide Crows to get up here by 17 points, and they'll move on to a prelim final, meaning that the Hawthorn Hawks season has come to an end. We now move on to the Saturday at 7:35 PM at the Gabba, where we have the Brisbane Lions take on the Gold Coast Suns. Now this is the final that fans wanted to see, and that's right, for the first time in AFL history we have a final between both the Queensland sides. The Q Clash. It's not just a final, it's a semi-final. Stakes couldn't be any higher. Winner has a chance of making a grand final while the loser's season comes to an end. The Suns played in their first final in AFL history just last week against the Dockers at Optus, where David Swallow was the hero and won the game by 1 point. As for the Lions, they played what seemed to be a very poor brand of football. They were by far the most disappointing team in week 1. And now let me take you all the way back to round 20 of the AFL season. These two teams did face off, where the Suns won by a whopping 66 points. One of their biggest wins of the season. Now the only difference this time round is the fact that the last game was at People's First Stadium, this time it's at the Gabba, and it's also finals time. And who knows, that could be what helps the Lions get over the line this week. I mean, everyone's expecting the Lions to win, while not many people are expecting the Suns to win. The Lions do have the overall finals experience, obviously. I mean, they've played finals for 7 consecutive seasons, and this will only be the second Suns final in AFL history. Although they did prove last week that their lack of finals experience won't affect them at all. I mean, at Optus Stadium, where the Dockers could not have an even better advantage than a home crowd. Not to mention, it has been shown over the last 2 seasons how much the Suns do typically struggle to win away from home. And the Suns haven't defeated the Fremantle Dockers since round 9 of 2022. I mean, that wasn't until last week. The Lions will be without Lachie Neale this week after doing his calf late in the 4th quarter against Geelong. Although that shouldn't really matter, as there are a lot of positives for the Lions going into this. They have Cam Rayner, who hit 3 goals last week, and yes, I understand 2 of them were free kicks in the goal square. Dane Zorko, who was by far best on ground for the Lions last week. I mean, 35 disposals in a final is absolutely huge. Darcy Fort, who's had to come in for McInerney, had 52 hitouts. He absolutely dominated against Mark Blicavs, who only had 26. That's double. But as for the Suns, they've got Humphrey, he kicked 3 last week, and those were huge goals as well. Ben King, unfortunately, struggled to be in the game at all last week, kicking 0 goals 3, but you know, it's his first time playing finals footy, and I know he's going to do something special this week. I mean, he did finish second in the Coleman. There's no way he goes goalless 2 weeks in a row. Matt Rowell, who had 34 disposals, the second most out of any other player that week. The second most out of any other player in that game. Noel Anderson, who had 32 disposals and almost kicked 2 goals. That really shows you why he made the All-Australian team this year. Whenever huge rivalry matchups like this occur during finals, they all tend to be close games, or at least more often than not. And although I understand the Lions are very likely to win, and you'd be absolutely stupid to not tip them going into this game, I just think the momentum after the Suns win last week, I'm going to tip the Gold Coast Suns here in a huge upset. That's right, I'm predicting the Brisbane Lions to go out in straight sets in 2025, and I think the Suns will get up here by 3 points. It'll be a close one. Alright, and that will wrap up today's video, everyone. I hope you all did enjoy. Finals footy is here. Get up and about, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope to see you all in the next bit of content that I post here on the channel.